Orovia is not a big shot like Roger. Her public execution therefore received little attention. The world government only publicly disclosed this incident, defining Ohara scholars as demons. Ordinary people are easily fooled. For ordinary people, they just join in the fun and talk more. Even if someone raises doubts, they can really compete against the authority of the world government. Therefore, the destruction of Ohara will not be mentioned anytime soon. Orovia's execution is scheduled for a month later. Victor finds Felix. Felix came to Victor. "Senior, what's the matter?" Felix asks Victor. Victor smoked a cigarette expressionlessly, and said, "How much do you know about Nico Robin?" Felix replied, "Her mother violated the laws of the world and secretly researched ancient weapons in an attempt to destroy the world. She is now a prisoner on death row." Having said that, Felix glanced at Victor secretly. "Senior, you take Nico Robin in." He was worried that Robin would cause trouble. "What do you think I intend to take her in?" Victor asked Felix back. Felix shook his head. "I don't understand either." In fact, when Felix saw the newspaper, he was worried that Robin's identity would be exposed. Fortunately, Ohara has no survivors now, and they also took Robin away before CP5. CP5 doesn't recognize Robin. Now the world government won't pay attention to Robin either. Even if they knew that Orovia had a daughter, they would think she died on the refuge ship. It's just that Felix really doesn't understand why Senior Victor wants to take Robin in. Could it be that the senior is also for ancient weapon? Although Felix also has doubts about Ohara's accusation, after all, a group of harmless scholars want to destroy the world, who will believe it? "Felix, do you believe that ancient weapon can destroy the world?" At this moment, Victor asked. Felix was stunned for a moment. He thought for a few minutes, and replied, "Maybe it is possible." Victor took a deep breath. Actually, the world government is also looking for it. Really? Felix was surprised when he heard this. Instead of answering directly, Victor asked Felix, "Can guns kill people?" "Okay." Felix nodded. "If it was a kid with a gun, would you be scared?" Victor asked next. Felix shook his head. The gun was in the child's hand. There was a possibility of misfire, but it could not threaten him. "If the gun is in the hands of a pirate, will you be afraid?" After hearing Victor's words, Felix nodded. Pirates know how to use guns, and pirates are enemies. "Would you be afraid if the gun was in my hand?" Victor continued to ask. Felix shook his head vigorously. At this point, he understood the meaning behind Victor's question. Ancient weapon is the same. It's just a more powerful weapon. The problem is who owns it. In the hands of the evil party, it can destroy the world, but if it is in our hands, it can help us eliminate pirates and eliminate evil. Victor said, coming to Felix's side, "This task is very important. 5 Elders attaches great importance to it. Don't let me down." Mission. Felix stretched his body. He didn't expect to have anything to do with the 5 Elders. "I didn't expect Victor to value him so much. There are some things that I can't tell you right now. It involves a lot of people, and there are many undercover agents in our department. Once Robin's existence is leaked, the consequences will be disastrous. Anyway." Victor patted Felix on the shoulder hard. "From now on, you will officially become the commander of the night, and be responsible for guarding the princess until we find the ancient weapon. This is not just about whether or not the pirates can be eliminated. If the Revolutionary Army and the pirates find the ancient weapon ahead of time, it will be a real disaster." Victor's words startled Felix into a cold sweat. At the same time, he also felt the mission on his shoulders, and Senior Victor's trust in him. How dare you entrust him with such an important task? Remember, this is a secret. Only you and I know it in this world. No third person is allowed to know Robin's identity." Victor said seriously. "Yes." Felix replied earnestly. Even if he died, he could not reveal Robin's identity. If the pirates and the Revolutionary Army learned of Robin's existence, the consequences would be disastrous. For the world, for peace, for justice, Felix is duty-bound and duty-bound. "Well, it's good that you know." After Victor finished speaking, let Felix go back first. After Felix leaves, Victor calls for Robin. Robin followed Stella to the door, and Stella left first. Robin walked into the study and respectfully called, "Master Victor." Stella taught you well, and you are very adaptable, Victor said to Robin. Robin remained standing as a maid. It's just that her eyes are red, obviously from crying. Victor said, have you read today's newspaper? Robin nodded. In a month, her mother would be publicly executed. When looking at the photos of Orovia, she would think of the scene when her mother abandoned her when she was 2 years old and went to sea to find the text of history. She missed her mother so much, but she never expected to see her executed before she met her face. How uncomfortable Robin felt, only she knew. Victor said, want to see her? Robin nodded. Victor said, come here. Robin obediently came to Victor's side. Victor raised his hand and stroked Robin's head lightly, like petting a cat. Laugh. Victor said again. Robin didn't know how to smile, especially now, she couldn't. Stella should have told you. Victor said to Robin. You must listen to Master Victor, and you must do what Master Victor ordered. Robin replied. She has now been repeatedly brainwashed by Stella. Being stuck by the CPU all day long, I have to dedicate everything to Mr. Victor. Find a way to laugh, no matter how difficult it is. This is a test for you. Until I am satisfied, Victor said seriously. After hearing what Victor said, Robin started to try to laugh out loud, and she even used her hands to grin her mouth to force a smile. Victor sipped his tea and watched Robin perform. It's a taming process. Get Robin used to following orders. In this way, Robin will grow into a qualified tool person. After half an hour, Victor still hasn't stopped. Robin was still trying to put on a smile that would please Lord Victor as much as possible. Until there was a knock at the door. Come in, Victor called. Connor walked in. He glanced at Robin first, then pressed against Victor's ear, and whispered, Senior, he killed someone. Victor asked Robin to go out to find Stella first. Killed? You're making rapid progress. Victor thought in his heart, but on the surface he was very calm. Tezzolo is an important toolman he cultivated. Will continue to provide money to Victor in the future. Otherwise, the current money-making model would not be easy to raise a huge army. And Tezzolo's transformation from a low-level young man to a hero did not happen overnight. He needs to go through more pain and trials, to hone his body, mind and will, in order to meet Victor's expectations. When Victor listened to Connor's report, Tezzolo had killed his boss and succeeded in taking over. He is now a cadre of the Wild Wolf Gang. Now he needs to build up his prestige, and at the same time collect money to make him even stronger. Not far away, some young men were trembling. They witnessed Tezzolo kill the elder brother, and they were all afraid that Tezzolo would do something to them. These idiots. Tezzolo sneered, showing no mercy to them. In the Wild Wolf Gang, he hated others to lie to him the most, and these little gangsters had lied to him before, so Tezzolo didn't mind killing a few people first. His eyes swept over everyone, and then slowly landed on a woman, who was a beautiful woman. She is one of the properties of the Wild Wolf Gang, a high-quality product that has just been abducted. She will work in the nightclub of the Wolf Gang and be squeezed out of money by the Wolf Gang. There was a grin on the corner of Tezzolo's mouth. Since you dare to lie to me, you must be prepared to die. After speaking, he walked towards those minions step by step. Seeing Tezzolo's cold eyes, the woman trembled with fright. She wanted to run, but she couldn't move at all. At this time, a man next to him rushed up and shouted, Tezzolo, don't mess around. Ha 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 ha. What a stupid boy. Tezzolo smiled disdainfully, grabbed the man's neck with one hand, lifted him up easily and threw him to the ground. The man struggled for a while, then passed out. Tezzolo continued to walk towards the rest of the minions, and those people ran away one after another, but before they had walked a few steps, Tezzolo grabbed them back again. Soon, the whole street fell silent. The woman's legs were so frightened that she kept backing away, her face was as pale as paper, and her lips were trembling. Tezzolo walked up to the woman, knelt down, looked at her frightened look, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Not bad, she is a rare beauty, but don't worry, I am different from those scumbags. Tezzolo smiled triumphantly. He wouldn't use women to make money. In that case, it would be no different from selling Stella's beasts. Soon after, Tezzolo brought a group of people to the door of the nightclub. This nightclub is owned by a rival gang. Although hostile, the well water does not violate the river water. Everyone came out to make money, and the two gangs were more restrained before they were sure to kill each other. Today, however, Tezzolo wants to break the peace. Tezzolo walked in with a submachine gun, followed by a dozen people. These are outlaws recently recruited by Tezzolo. He was very willing to spend money, and with the money he found in his eldest brother's house, he successfully recruited a group of people to work for him. The moment Tezzolo walked into the nightclub, there was an uproar inside. What are these people going to do? Don't they know that this is the territory of Tabby's family? Hey guy. Suddenly, a strong man wearing a black vest walked towards Tezzolo. Tezzolo stopped and frowned at the strong man. This guy is the owner of this nightclub. Tezzolo had met this man before, so he knew him and knew he was the man behind the nightclub. Hello. At this time, another obscene-looking man came over with a smile on his face. He was Tabby's cousin and was in charge of watching the scene. Occasionally, a non-sighted foreigner would come here to make trouble, and he would settle it. However, Tezzolo didn't talk nonsense with them at all. He raised his gun and shot at the two people continuously. Boom. 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 3 gunshots knocked the two guys down immediately. The two guys were lying on the ground howling. The guests around screamed. Tezzolo snorted coldly, "Tabby, get out and die." After he finished speaking, there was another commotion around him. At this time, a slender young man came down the stairs. The man appeared to be in his 20s, tall, fair-skinned, with blonde hair in a shawl. His demeanor looked a bit feminine, like a nobleman. This man is Tabby, the boss of the Tabby family. Who are you? Tabby walked down the stairs, staring at Tezzolo sullenly. Do you want to die? Tezzolo ignored Tabby and fired at Tabby. Tabby reacted quickly and dodged immediately. However, just as Tezzolo's madness started, he threw the prepared bomb directly at Tabby and the others, killing more than a dozen people on the spot. Among these people, half are Tabby's subordinates, and the remaining half are ordinary people. Ah! Help! Tabby and the others screamed and fled in all directions. Tezzolo looked at the group of fleeing people indifferently, and said coldly, "Tabby, get out." Tabby's face was pale and bloodless, but he still managed to stand up. Tezzolo sneered, grabbed Tabby's hair, and threw him against the wall. Tabby cried out in pain. "Asshole! I'm going to kill you!" Ah! Tabby was in pain and kept struggling. He wanted to resist, but Tezzolo held his head tightly and kept hitting the wall. Every time he punched, he could hear the sound of bones breaking. Tabby felt his head rumbling, his eardrums buzzing, and he felt stars popping out of his eyes. This situation lasted for half a minute. At this time, the surrounding guests left one after another, leaving only Tezzolo and Tabby. "Bastard, bastard!" Tabby screamed in pain, but he couldn't change the situation at all. Tezzolo stood up slowly, holding Tabby's collar in one hand, and took out a pack of cigarettes with the other hand, lit it and smoked. Amidst the smog, Tezzolo's expression became more and more ferocious, looking like a ghost. "I want you dead." Tezzolo growled. Tabby was caught by Tezzolo and had difficulty breathing. His cheeks were flushed, his eyes turned white, and he felt that he was about to die. Cough, 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 cough. Tabby coughed violently, and his lungs were burning. Suddenly, Tezzolo punched him in the chest, and for a moment, Tabby felt as if his internal organs had been displaced. Tabby opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't at all. Before Tabby finished speaking, his eyes suddenly widened and his pupils shrank, staring at Tezzolo. Because, he saw that Tezzolo was holding a knife and stabbed himself in the abdomen with a knife, and blood flowed down the blade. Tabby's eyes widened, full of resignation. There was a gurgling sound in his throat. Tezzolo took out the knife, wiped his hands, and said lightly, "This is a good deal, I accept it." Plop, with a muffled sound, Tezzolo kicked Tabby's body away. "Raid Tabby's family, go straight to the dragon, and kill Tabby. The madness has just begun tonight." Just like the violence when he killed Tabby, Tezzolo knows that if he wants to gain power, he must be ruthless, and killing people is like killing chickens. In this world, the weak prey on the strong, and the strong are respected. Only those with absolute power will be respected and worshipped, while those without strength are only worthy of being bullied and trampled on. When Tezzolo killed Tabby, he was just announcing his strength to the whole city, and at the same time was deterring everyone. He wants everyone to know that he is a ruthless man. After finishing all this, Tetsolo turned around and walked out of the bar. Tetzolo's back looked unusually lonely, like a bloodthirsty wolf. The night wind blew his clothes, and he carried a strong murderous aura, which made people tremble with fear. People always grow, especially when they crave change. Tetzolo's growth is in line with Victor's expectations. In fact, Victor doesn't need Tetzolo to be loyal to him, he just needs to control Tetzolo and let him make money for himself. It also turns out that Victor's proof is correct. Free-range dogs are more energetic than caged dogs. Tetzolo, unaware of his life, has been controlled by Victor, who becomes cruel and begins to learn to use violence for more profit. Because he has tasted the sweetness from it, he believes that this path is correct. Victor continued to arrange for Connor to watch Tetzolo. West Blue. Penal Prison. This is West Blue's largest prison, housing extremely dangerous criminals. For example, the Revolutionary Army trying to overthrow the world government. Orovia is locked in the deepest part of the prison. There are cells for prisoners on death row and life sentences. Bang. At this time, the door of the cell was opened, and the jailer asked Orovia. Say, Miss Orovia, a lord wants to see you. Who? Orovia asked. You'll understand when you see him, said the jailer, leading Orovia out of the cell. Soon, the jailer led Orovia to the top floor of the prison, and Orovia met them in the interrogation room. The man was wearing Marine's military uniform and sunglasses, with a grim expression on his face, and he didn't even look at Orovia. Next to the man stood a girl. The girl looked at Orovia, tears welling up in her eyes. Although the mother and daughter hadn't seen each other for many years, Orovia guessed Robin's identity. Her heart skipped a beat, thinking that the world government was going to use her daughter to threaten her. How despicable. However, in order not to implicate her daughter, she decided not to recognize Robin. Miss Orovia, sit down and talk, Victor said. Orovia sat down. At this time, Stella served 2 cups of coffee, one was placed in front of Orovia, and the other was placed in front of Robin. You guys have time for a cup of coffee, Victor said to Robin. Then, Victor said to Stella, you go out first. Yes. Stella nodded, turned and walked out. Ohara was destroyed, and the scholars and books on the island were gone. Victor said unhurriedly, now you have a cup of coffee to bid farewell to, I hope you cherish it. As Victor said, he also pointed to the surveillance phone bug on the wall. The surveillance phone bug was unconscious. During this period, you don't have to worry about being monitored. Orovia had too many doubts, but Victor ignored her. Looking into Robin's eyes, Orovia chose to believe. You're Robin, aren't you? Orovia asked. Robin nods. You should know who I am. Orovia asked. Robin nods. How did you find this place, and how did you escape? Orovia asked. I was rescued, Robin said. Rescued? Orovia was surprised. Who rescued you? Robin hesitated for a moment, then looked at Victor. Orovia was silent for a moment. She knew that this news would definitely cause quite a stir. But why did Victor Admiral save his daughter? Judging by his performance, it doesn't look like he wants to use his daughter to threaten him. At this time, Victor was smoking a cigarette, glanced at Orovia, and said, I don't think you need to know too much about this matter. You just need to know that Robin will be safe with me now. As for the rest, you don't need to know. Thank you, Victor Admiral, Orovia said. Victor has told her that she will take good care of Robin. Victor exhaled smoke rings and said, say your last words, or you won't have a chance. Victor Admiral, can I have some time alone with Robin? Orovia said. Victor thought for a while, nodded, and said, all right. Then, Victor got up and left. As soon as Victor left, Orovia couldn't control her emotions, she hugged Robin and cried. Robin kept calling for his mother. Mom, Mom, Mom. It was as if he wanted to make up for everything he owed in this life. Victor was smoking a cigarette outside, and Stella was in tears. Victor raised his hand and patted her on the head. Stella Rika looked at Victor with rain. On the day of Orovia's execution, the sky was gloomy. On the way to the execution ground, Robin witnessed people throwing stones and rotten eggs at Orovia. Orovia was thrown onto a metal rack. She was wearing a heavy prison uniform, Her hands and feet were tightly bound, and she could only lie there and let everyone insult her. Which, hang her, the onlookers believed the world government's rhetoric. Therefore, they regard Orovia as a demon. This scene was watched by Robin. Stella covered her mouth to keep her from making a sound. However, looking at his mother's appearance, Robin felt as if a knife was piercing his heart. I won't let you go. Suddenly, this sentence came to mind. She gritted her teeth and glared fiercely at the group of people in front of her. Until watching the mother was sent to the gallows. Kill her, kill her. The devil, she's a devil. In the chaos, the crowd was furious. Victor was expressionless. He patted Robin's head and said, very angry, want to kill them? Robin nodded. She watched her mother being hung up. The rope was tightened, and her neck was red. Robin felt his heart beating rapidly in his chest. Until Orovia dies completely. After returning from West Blue, Robin wakes up with nightmares every night. In the dream, she watched her mother being hanged again and again. Everyone I met in my dream was so angry. Is it really wrong for Ohara to study the historical text? Robin asked himself in his heart more than once. Until one night after a month, Victor returned to the villa. Victor doesn't come back very often. Most of the time he is on duty at Naval Headquarters or Marie Joy's. Victor called Robin into the study, ready to check Robin's study. He arranged many teachers for Robin. Prepare to train Robin in the direction of full function. Robin didn't let him down either. She studied hard. Master Victor, can I ask you a question? At this point, Robin asks Victor. Victor asked Robin to stand in front of him. Well, you can ask. Robin said, what exactly is justice? Victor smiled when he heard this. This is a good opportunity to brainwash Robin. As long as you act according to the will of those in power, then you are justice. Otherwise, you are a crime. Brainwashing should start from a baby, and Robin should understand that the strong prey on the weak from an early age. Justice, evil? Who defines the boundary between these? Victor believed that Robin would have her own thinking, but the ideas Victor passed on to her would also affect her. Sure enough, Robin began to wonder. Her past 3 views are completely different from the 3 views she has accepted recently. She desperately wanted to know the answer. Are pirates evil? Victor asked Robin. Robin nodded. They did a lot of bad things. Like what are the bad things? Victor asked next. Killing people, burning towns, looting money and food. Robin thought about it and replied. The celestial dragons have destroyed many cities. They can kill anyone and take what they want. So, are they evil? Victor said patiently. Robin nodded. But Marine has to protect them. Marine's job is to uphold justice. Victor continued. Robin looked up at Victor, puzzled in his black and white eyes. She has experienced too few people and things to understand the world of adults. There is no absolute justice or evil in this world. You have to remember this sentence. Victor rubbed Robin's face, which he found amusing. If the celestial dragons weren't nobles of the world and were not protected by the king of the world, then they should have been executed for the crimes they committed. The existence of the celestial dragons is trampling on justice. Victor said without hesitation. At the same time, he also introduced the concept of the king of the world. Robin thought for a while and said, Master Victor, according to what you mean, my mother is not wrong. She just angered the king of the world, right? Yes, it's like you were forbidden to eat more jam at your aunt's house, but here you can be satisfied. Victor replied. If Master Victor is the king of the world, will you prohibit Ohara from studying history? Robin asked cautiously. Of course not. The existence of history is for vigilance and reference, so that people will not make the same mistakes. Victor replied against his will. Actually, if he was IM, then he would erase history too. After all, it took disgraceful means to seize the world. And history is a little girl who can be dressed up by anyone, written by the victors. It would be nice for the loser not to be discredited, let alone hope for glory. It would be nice if Master Victor was the king of the world. Robin thought to himself. In Sea Circle calendar 1500, the first half of the year was relatively smooth. At least for Marine, there were no big events in the first half of the year. However, when the news of Golden Lion's jailbreak came out, Marine's heartstrings that had just been relaxed tensed again. What? Golden Lion is jailbroken. Impossible. How so? Escape from Impel Down. How is that possible? Naval headquarters, almost everyone is talking about it. A military meeting was held empty. This military meeting is special, even Zephyr is invited. Golden Lion escaped from prison. With his character, he will definitely take revenge on Marine. Sora is most worried about the upcoming revenge. Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp and others all looked serious. They knew that Sora was not alarmist. Victor smoked a cigarette and glanced at Aokiji, but Aokiji was not asleep, and after seeing Victor looking at him, he also looked at Victor. So, Victor took a deep breath. What should I do? Sengoku was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, first propose that Marine withdraw from New World temporarily. Aokiji was stunned. Akainu was also stunned, and the rest of the Marines were also stunned. Exit New World? The Ghost Spider exclaimed. Sengoku Admiral, is it a little exaggerated to quit New World because of a Golden Lion? Not only Ghost Spider, Huashaoshan was also puzzled. Yes, Sengoku Admiral. If the Golden Lion is really strong as you said, then we should send troops to destroy him instead of avoiding it. Sengoku Admiral, I think it's wrong to quit New World and make the world think we're afraid of pirates. Ghost Spider, Huashaoshan and others retorted one after another. They all believed that the Golden Lion's strength should not be underestimated, but it was definitely not terrifying, let alone make the entire Marine fear. I think it's more than that. While everyone was arguing endlessly, Sora suddenly said, this is an order from the higher-ups of the world government. The official level crushes people to death. What's more, is it from the top of the world government. Victor is a time traveler, and his perspective on the world is naturally different from that of Akainu and others. Akainu and others were very angry. Marine unexpectedly withdrew from New World, preparing to give New World to pirates. Doesn't this just allow pirates to develop in New World? Although Akainu and others were angry, they didn't say anything. And they also know that they are not the decision makers of the world government. At this time, Kuang looked at Victor. The task of arresting the Golden Lion will be entrusted to you. Victor nodded. This is not an easy task. At this time, Sora looked at Zephyr again. You should also pay attention to safety. Kuang worried that the Golden Lion would retaliate against Marine and attack Marine's warships. Especially military students are more vulnerable to attacks. Zephyr nodded. I'll be careful. Golden Lion is worthy of being a legendary pirate. He alone is enough to threaten Marine. Sengoku and I are going to Pangu City for a meeting, and I will leave the meeting here to you. Sora finished speaking to Victor, turned and left. Sengoku followed suit. This scene makes people imagine. Did the 5 elders choose Sengoku? After Sora and Sengoku left, Victor came to Zephyr and the others. He looked at the crowd. Everyone, what should we do next? Go find the Golden Lion. At this time, the Ghost Spider stood up. Golden Lion's men heard that he escaped from prison, and they will definitely join him. Then leave it to you. Victor gave the task to the Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider stood up. Yes. In order to prevent the Golden Lion's revenge, it is necessary to strengthen vigilance. In addition, their respective families must also be taken care of. If conditions permit, let them move to Marineford Town. As for the cost of the process, the department will reimburse them. In addition, if you need to send a warship to pick it up, please register your name, and the headquarters will send a fleet to escort it. Victor's words were naturally very thoughtful. Only Zephyr was dejected. The pain of losing his family let him know how terrible the pirate's revenge is. It is easy to hide the open gun, but it is difficult to defend against the hidden arrow. At this time, Victor then said to Akainu, although New World needs to be withdrawn, the G1 branch still needs to stay behind. You can go to the G1 branch. Hearing this, Akainu nodded slightly to Victor. He has no problem with Victor's arrangement. After Golden Lion escaped from Impel Down, instead of seeking revenge on Marine immediately, he chose to hide, and he found a village to recuperate. Although he managed to escape from Impel Down, it was at the cost of his 2 legs. Now replacing his 2 legs are Sakuragi and Kuju. Although there are substitutes, there is too much blood loss and it takes time to adapt. Therefore, the wise choice is to rest. Victor, just wait for me. The Golden Lion is in the village, cursing Victor viciously. He didn't expect to fall into Victor's hands. Still, Victor is really strong. Golden Lion also intends to revenge on Victor. 2 months later. New World, Helitofo Island. The Moby Dick and 3 miniature versions of the Moby Dick are parked in the bay. How did you escape? On Moby Dick's deck, Whitebeard frowned, looking at the Golden Lion in amazement. After seeing Whitebeard, Golden Lion smiled and said, "Whitebeard, now you are the overlord of the era." After hearing what Golden Lion said, Whitebeard ignored him, but asked, "What the hell are you thinking?" Whitebeard and Golden Lion are old acquaintances, both former members of the Rocks Pirates. Therefore, Whitebeard is aware of the Golden Lion. Whitebeard wants family, Golden Lion wants power. Now, what the Golden Lion meant was to cede power to Whitebeard. "I need a little time to prepare," Golden Lion said to Whitebeard. "What are you going to prepare?" Whitebeard asked warily. Golden Lion said viciously, "I will make him pay for the pain that guy left me." "That guy?" Whitebeard thought for a moment, then said, "You mean Victor?" "Yes." Golden Lion touched his knee, "That insidious and despicable guy. It can make you suffer, that guy is really amazing." Whitebeard knew the strength and scheming of the Golden Lion. It is not an easy task to capture the Golden Lion alive. "In short, I will disappear for a while, and during the time I am away, the sea will be temporarily handed over to you." Golden Lion stood up. He didn't want to stay for dinner, and of course, Whitebeard didn't think to ask him to stay. Whitebeard ignored the Golden Lion. As Whitebeard watched, the Golden Lion took to the sky and quickly disappeared. Marco looked in the direction the Golden Lion was away from. "Dad, what does Shiki want to do?" Whitebeard shook his head. "How do I know what he thinks, but it must not be a good thing." Since Golden Lion escaped from prison, Marine has been tracking Golden Lion's remnants everywhere, trying to find out the whereabouts of Golden Lion through them. However, Golden Lion has not been linked with the old department. Rumor has it that Golden Lion and Whitebeard met. As for where it went, no one knows. However, no one cares about the Golden Lion anymore. Because Marine gave up more bases in New World, as for where it went, no one knows. However, no one cares about the Golden Lion anymore. Because Marine gave up New World, the pirates fought more fiercely for the territory of New World. Everywhere in the New World is at war, and there is killing everywhere. Whitebeard is in the era of great pirates. Those pirates who lost their territory in battle, those pirates who lost their companions, and those pirates who wanted to hug their thighs all came to join Whitebeard one after another. The strength and power of the Whitebeard pirates are growing. Even though Whitebeard didn't want to dominate, his sons pushed him step by step towards the position of supremacy. In this process, the Big O pirate group and Beast's pirates are also growing. However, Whitebeard is still very strong now, and Charlotte Linlin and Kaido are still quite afraid of Whitebeard, so they did not initiate a conflict with Whitebeard. Shortly after Akainu arrived at the G1 branch, Victor recommended him to be the commander of the G1 branch. Ghost Spider, Dogman and others also have important arrangements, and their subordinates have also been promoted. In the eyes of Ghost Spider and Dugman et al., Victor is a nice guy. Although Victor's reputation is not very good and he has a lot of black history in the past, they are now friends. Who doesn't like their friends? In comparison, Victor really values love and righteousness. Akainu's psychology is the same as Ghost Spider and Dogman. At Naval Headquarters, he was also one of the less likable guys. If it wasn't for Victor, he really wouldn't have anyone walking by his side. Marineford, Naval Headquarters. Victor is smoking a cigarette in the office while reading today's paper. At this moment, the phone on the desk rang. Victor picked up the microphone. "Victor, come to my office." The phone bug mimicked Sora's voice. Victor put down the phone bug, got up and walked into the empty office. In the empty office, Victor sat down and reached for the dessert on the table. Sora glanced and said, "It's from Garp. He is really laid back. If I had known I would not be promoted to Admiral, it would be so comfortable to be a Vice Admiral." Victor said while eating. Kong didn't take Victor's words seriously. He said, "There is something you need to deal with recently." "Me?" Victor said suspiciously, "But I still want to hunt down the Golden Lion. That guy's whereabouts are unknown now, and he is probably preparing a new conspiracy somewhere." Kuang also knew Golden Lion quite well. Although the Golden Lion is arrogant, he also knows how to forbear. Now that the Golden Lion is completely missing, it's not so scary. At least not Marine's primary enemy right now. Tell me, what do you need me to do? Victor asked nothing. Kuang said to Victor, you also know the Qiwuhai plan. Yeah. Victor nodded. The heir said to Victor, before the Qiwuhai plan starts, the world government needs to show a round of force. Let me go out for a walk. Victor asked. In 2 days, a cruise ship will leave Marie Joy's and embark on a journey around the world, Kuang said. Victor frowned. Could it be that you want me to? Kuang said. Angela Tishung is also on the boat, he asked you to accompany him by name. Victor smiled and said, well, after all, our Marine Admiral's other identity is the private army of celestial dragons. It's good that you understand. After Kuang finished speaking, he asked Victor to go back and prepare. Sengoku walked by just as Victor was leaving the office. Victor greeted Sengoku and saw Sengoku enter the empty office. Old people still love Sengoku, Victor muttered. He smiled coldly, but accepted it frankly. Sengoku is so much older than him, far above him in combat achievements and experience. Moreover, Sengoku is more stable. All things considered, 5 elders currently prefers Sengoku. However, it doesn't matter, the current Marine Admiral position is enough. What's more, this time I will accompany celestial dragons on a trip, and I can bring back a few children with potential by the way. Mariajoy. Chartina Palace, this is the Victor Admiral I told you about. Angelati-san introduces Victor in front of a female celestial dragons. This female celestial dragons is about 40 years old, her eyes are small, slender, and long, and the tip of the eyes is slightly raised towards the temples. Although the eyeballs are not black, there are often dots in the dark gray pupils when looking forward. Sparks burst out, but the whites of the eyes glow with blue flashes. The eyelashes are not long, but dense and black, with single eyelids, and the eyes seem to be surrounded by clouds, hazy, unfathomable, mysterious and alluring. Chartina looked at Victor, smiled slightly and said, Angelati has mentioned you more than once, you are an excellent and loyal warrior. Your Highness, I appreciate it, Victor replied. Angela Tishung, I still have to accompany Ada Palace. After finishing speaking, Shah Erdina turned around and left. Hearing this, Victor gained a deeper understanding of this trip around the world. This time around the world is definitely not a trip for a few celestial dragons. To be precise, there must be people that celestial dragons value in this round the world journey. Although they are both celestial dragons, they seem to have the same status, but there must be people with respected status among them. Victor had an idea in his mind, and he planned to use some words from Angela Dessen. Sure enough, there are quite a few celestial dragons participating in the global tour this time. Including Angelati-san, there are 16 celestial dragons in total. There are men, women and children. In addition to celestial dragons, the guards carried by celestial dragons also include CP0, maids, and slaves. The number adds up to more than 2,000 people. Fortunately, the means of transportation is a cruise ship. Otherwise, ordinary boats really can't hold so many people. Marine even dispatched 10 warships to escort. Buster Call is also the scale of 10 warships. These 10 warships are dispatched together and can destroy any country at any time. Major, do the world's nobles travel on such a large scale every time they travel? I don't know, it's my first time participating. There are so many of us, there must be many supplely ships alone. What a waste of money. The nobles of the world don't care about money. Hush. Keep your voice down, don't let CP0 hear it, so as not to cause trouble. In the midst of many discussions, a tall and beautiful woman in a white suit jacket walked onto the bridge. She was wearing a light blue long-sleeved shirt and black tights, which perfectly outlined her figure. A pair of casual shorts of the same color were worn on the slender and straight legs. The woman came to Victor's side. Angelina. The woman took the initiative to greet Victor. Victor. Seeing the other party voluntarily reported his name, Victor also greeted him. This mission is very special, Angelina said to Victor. Victor didn't rush to answer. In short, I hope there will be no accidents, otherwise, you will be in big trouble. Angelina spoke frightening words in a soft tone. It's a threat. Victor nodded when he heard this. As long as I'm here, there won't be any accidents. I hope so. Angelina turned and left. At this time, the CP0s that Angelina brought were all respectful to her. Victor knew that the world government would select talented orphans from all over the world and train them to become CPS. Among them, the most talented people will be cultivated into Marine Admiral, or the Shield of Celestial Dragons. These people even have the ability to be Marine Marshals. This graceful-looking woman may be the Shield in CP0. Victor smiled slightly. It seems that this time the escort mission came right. Victor doesn't know much about the Celestial Dragons so far. I only know that the nobles of the world are not just descendants of the 19 kings. For example, joining the royal family of the world government also has the opportunity to become a world noble. This time I took this opportunity to learn more about them. The first stop is to the town of Rog in the East Blue. 10 warships escorted the surrounding area to ensure the safety of the cruise ship. The sailing speed of the cruise ship is not fast, ensuring the comfort and stability of the sailing process. If the cruise ship shakes violently, all crew members and their families on board will become slaves. Accompanying you is like accompanying a tiger. Victor noticed that the sailors on the ship were tense, afraid that something might go wrong. Victor smoked a cigarette and looked at the children of celestial dragons playing below. 2 celestial dragons' children ride their respective slaves and are playing a game of horseback riding. Several female celestial dragons were watching the slaves fight, smiling and covering their mouths from time to time. Even the celestial dragons, who are looking at the scenery, are riding slaves. They would sit on slaves wherever they could keep their feet off the ground. At this moment, Victor turned around, and his eyes fell on Chartina Palace. I saw that Chartina Palace was accompanying a woman. The woman was beautiful, with a graceful figure and fair skin. However, it was the woman's eyes that caught Victor's attention. She has eagle eyes. If ordinary people look at it, they will tremble and fear. Looking around, Angelina also accompanied her outside the palace of Chartina, protecting the woman's safety at all times. There was a calculation in Victor's heart. This woman is no ordinary celestial dragons. Just her eyes are like Im's eyes. Is it Im? Although Im's gender cannot be determined, Victor prefers to believe that Im is a man. Of course, even if the woman in front of her is not Im, her eyes are so similar to Im. This means that her relationship with Im is not shallow. How to approach her? Victor wants to seize the throne of the king of the world. 4 things need to be done. The first thing is to obtain the military power of Marine. The second thing is to get ancient weapon. The third thing is to know the strength of Im in the national treasure of celestial dragons. The first 2 things are easier. Only the third one is difficult. Even if the first 2 things are achieved, if the third one is not completed, then he will not be able to become the king of the world. Because the national treasure of the celestial dragons has the power to erase anyone at any time. This is why Victor wants to be a Marine. Only by continuing to be a Marine can he have a chance to get close to Im. While Victor was thinking, the woman looked at Victor. The moment his eyes met, Victor didn't shrink back immediately, but bowed his head very politely like a gentleman. The woman looked at Victor with a little more curiosity in her eyes. Because anyone who looks at her will panic. Victor is neither humble nor overbearing, an exception. The woman looked away, and then returned to the cabin. Chartina Palace accompanied the woman back to the cabin. From appearing to leaving, the sense of oppression that women bring to people is completely different. Wright and the others were obviously flustered. They seemed very small in front of the woman. Such a strong sense of oppression is so real that they dare not look directly at it, and are even more unable to resist. "Senior, who is she?" Wright asked in a low voice. Victor replied. "The nobles of the world, who else could it be?" Victor did it on purpose. He deliberately didn't answer the question. Even with the celestial dragons, the Chartina Palace is not so intimidating. Where is the sense of contrast? Wright et al. Set out to find out. However, Victor already had the answer in his heart. Blood. Why does the world government want to eradicate Roger's blood? The woman's eyes are so similar to Im's. The power lurking in the blood cannot be cultivated the day after tomorrow. The fleet arrives in the town of Rog. The journey of celestial dragons around the world must be different from that of ordinary people. Keep your heads down. Under the persecution of the celestial dragons' guards, from the port to the town, all the people had to kneel on the ground, and they were not even allowed to look up at the face of the celestial dragons. Celestial dragons seem to really regard themselves as gods, above all living beings. Wow woof. At this time, a black dog ran out from the crowd. It was calling not far away. Its call disturbed the celestial dragons. Behind it, a girl ran out, trying to drag the dog back. Two guards of celestial dragons in armor immediately raised their axes and beheaded the black dog and the child. The girl's mother covered her mouth and watched the tragic scene. At this time, a female celestial dragon riding on the slave was very interested in admiring the scene. So she stopped the guards and prevented them from killing the girl's mother. Treat other people's pain as happiness. This is also one of the ways celestial dragons get happiness. Wright and others witnessed this scene with their own eyes, and they all clenched their fists secretly. Although angry, they can't do anything. Is this the justice they uphold? After staying in Marine for a long time, Marine who has experienced these things will ask herself. Victor smoked a cigarette, came to Wright and the others, and patted their shoulders. Someone is watching you, be careful. Victor reminded Wright and the others, and then he looked at CP0 not far away. Next, Victor walked up to a CP0. Don't keep staring at my men, they are all young men. Victor said beside this CP0. The task of CP0 is not only to defend the nobles of the world, but at the same time, they are also responsible for dealing with the crisis. Any crisis that would threaten the celestial dragons, they will be resolved in advance. There must be no hostile crowd around celestial dragons. Victor Admiral, let's hope they don't have a second. For the performance of Wright and others just now, they can all be shot or turned into slaves. Hee. Victor raised his hand and patted CP0 on the back. My subordinate, I will take care of it myself, don't bother you. After finishing speaking, Victor left. Wright et al. Noticed that Victor and CP0 were communicating in private. At this time, Victor came back, and he said in Wright's ear, learn, no matter where you are, remember that you are just a soldier, and don't bring any emotions to work. Yes, senior, I will remember. Wright nodded. This time, I will help you settle it. If you encounter a difficult problem next time, it will be troublesome. After Victor finished speaking, he walked forward naturally, and he walked to Angela Tishung, talking and laughing with Angela Tishung. If it were Sengoku, he might not dare to talk to CP0 like that. Because CP0 is behind celestial dragons, but Victor is different, behind him are celestial dragons. Therefore, when facing CP0, you can speak harder. The celestial dragons are in the town of Rog for 3 days. Every time they travel, they will make the town jump. The people fell to their knees on the ground in panic. This kind of atmosphere is only available when the pirates come. Those who were too late to kneel were executed by the guards of celestial dragons. Celestial dragons enjoy the Ichiraku fun. Residents of Rog finally breathed a sigh of relief when the cruise ship left Rog 3 days later. Not long after the cruise ship started, it encountered a ship on the way. This is an ordinary passenger ship. The boat passengers picked up from different piers intend to go to the town of Rog, either for work or for travel. We'll see who can sink it. At this time, a celestial dragons on the cruise ship suddenly suggested. Gautro Sheng, you were my defeat last time. This time I will definitely win. The celestial dragons chose the game, and soon, the guards pushed the cannon. The muzzle was aimed at the passenger ship in the distance. Boom. Gautro Santo fired first. The shells flew towards the passenger ship. However, the shell flew over the head of the passenger ship and missed. You have no chance. Let me do it. Angela Tizan is also in the game. Boom. Boom. The shells flew towards the passenger ship one after another. The people on the passenger ship did not know what happened. The sailors on the passenger ship only saw warships and cruise ships. They also don't understand what happened. Quickly avoid the shells. Cried the captain hastily. Avoiding shells is one thing, how to escape is another. They're leaving. Follow them. Seeing that the passenger ship was about to run away, celestial dragons immediately ordered to pursue it. It's like hunting. The passenger ship is the prey of the celestial dragons. At this time, Angela Dessen shouted to Victor, "Victor." Victor walked up to Angelati-san. Angelati pointed to the passenger ship and said to Victor, "Let your men stop it, and don't let it go too far." Understood. Victor gave Wright a look. Wright nodded and went to convey the order. What? Let's intercept the passenger ship. The officers and soldiers on the warship were all dumbfounded. This is an order from the celestial dragons, and it must be carried out. You don't want your family members to become slaves either. Wright gritted his teeth and reminded. Although the Marines were very angry, they could only accept it. After all, no one wants their family members to be slaves. The celestial dragons are very satisfied to see the Marine warship intercepting the passenger ship. When the people on the passenger ship saw Marine coming, hope arose in their hearts. Thought Marine was here to save them. Save us. Passengers on the passenger ship shouted for help. However, Marine on the warship raised his gun and aimed at the passenger ship. Turn back. At this time, the passengers and sailors on the passenger ship fell into despair. The passenger ship was eventually sunk in front of 10,000 Marines. This kind of thing is actually nothing to Celestial Dragons guards, and CP0. Celestial Dragons can do even more egregious and terrifying things. It's just that most Marines are just ordinary people before they become Marines. It's hard for them to accept one thing. Why are they all human beings, yet they are treated as prey or playthings? Satisfy Celestial Dragons' fun by having warships intercept civilian passenger ships. Very angry, very unwilling. But, so what? It's not the first day that this kind of thing happens. Which of the Marines' top management doesn't know, but who dares to take care of it, and who can take care of it? Celestial Dragons have supreme privileges. He is a descendant of God. Oppressive rule. After nightfall, Wright came to Victor and said, "Senior, I can't sleep. Because of something during the day." Victor was drinking beer. He knew that Wright was in a panic. "Senior, I understand the truth. I know that I am a soldier and I have to obey orders, but. Wright took a deep breath, feeling indescribably decadent. His faith was completely shattered. This is easy to understand. In addition to the young people in Marine, several of them are for promotion and fortune. Most of the young people who join the Marine are for the sake of justice, weeding out the strong and helping the weak. However, they are now helping the evildoers and becoming the devil's accomplices. Once people's beliefs collapse, the consequences will be disastrous. Or go to extremes and become a kainu. Either become salted fish, become Aokiji. Either be a jerk, be a Kizaru. Victor drank his wine and said calmly, "If justice cannot be fair and just, then justice will not have any convincing power. You are struggling with this." "Yeah." Wright nodded. Victor put the bottle down, took out his cigarettes, and handed Wright one. Wright took the cigarette. "The sea breeze blows head on." Victor said, "So my justice is thorough justice. Destroying pirates will not achieve complete justice." Wright shook his head and said, "Even if all the pirates are wiped out, evil cannot be eradicated. Because the greatest crime is the one Marine protects. You are wrong." Victor patted Wright on the shoulder and said, "I want to be absolutely fair and just. Anyone who commits a crime will be punished. Only this level of justice is the justice I want." "This is impossible," Wright muttered. "This is my dream." Victor smiled, and then said seriously, "I know it's difficult, but if I don't work hard, nothing will change." "Senior." Wright nodded, "I will definitely follow the senior and realize the dream of the senior. Let's work together to create the world we want." Victor said to Wright. Wright raised his hope again. If the dream of seniors can really come true, that kind of world is really exciting. After entering East Blue, the cruise ship sails according to the predetermined route. The Celestial Dragons on board have fun along the way, and it's a wild ride. The people trembled, not daring to be angry or speak. Every time the Celestial Dragons left, the people breathed a sigh of relief, as if sending away the plague god, hoping that the Celestial Dragons would not come again. Finally arrived at Goa Kingdom. Victor looked at the map and muttered. Wright asked curiously, "Senior, is there anything special about Goa Kingdom?" Victor replied, "This is the hometown of Vice Admiral Garp." "Ah. Wright was stunned for a moment, and then said worriedly, "If this place is destroyed, then Vice Admiral Garp." Victor smiled and said, "There's no need to worry. Even if this place is destroyed, Vice Admiral Garp won't do anything stupid. Garp's weak character. Even if his own son and grandson were killed face to face, he would not dare to make trouble." Cartilage. "That's good." Wright heaved a sigh of relief. Victor reminded, "Keep an eye on this place. Although no one around here dares to attack the celestial dragons, it is necessary to put on a show." "Yes." Wright replied seriously. Victor remembers that Sabo's birthplace is the high town of Goa Kingdom. It's so beautiful here. Impotent and known as the most beautiful country in the East Blue. Chartina Palace said with emotion. "Really?" The woman next to Chartina Palace looked at the distant scenery. "The kingdom of Goa is indeed beautiful, because this country that perfectly excludes unnecessary things can be called a successful example of a segregated society. It just creates a mountain of garbage. There are also people who survive on mountains of garbage." The kingdom of Goa was divided into two parts. One is the city center, the civilian street consisting of civilian residences, the high town consisting of noble residences, and the palace consisting of royal residences. The other part is the suburbs. For example, Windmill Village is isolated from Goa Kingdom. Besides that, there is Mount Corpo, where bandits live, and Dwanjen, where refugees gather. When Victor came to East Blue this time, he wanted to take Sabo away by the way. Among the three brothers Ace, Sabo, and Luffy, Sabo is the most malleable and the most obedient. Moreover, although Sabo was born in an aristocratic family and had been trained by the aristocrats before he ran away from home, his personality was not obliterated and distorted when it was revealed. Instead, he saw through the hypocrisy of the aristocratic family and chose to follow his own will. Yearning for freedom, thinking that men should protect themselves. At the same time, Sabo has a leadership quality, and at the age of only 20, he became the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, that is, the second position of the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army will always consult Sabo for instructions in the actions of the Revolutionary Army in Doris Rosa. The point is values. Sabo sees through the ugliness of the world. Victor thinks that Sabo will be his toolman just like Robin. After all, Victor thinks that his dream must be followed by Sabo unconditionally. To create a world of fairness, freedom and justice, where everyone enjoys human rights. But any passionate young man will be infected. Victor believes in his dream, and he can definitely surpass Drago. However, raising Sabo is a troublesome thing. After all, the current Sabo is still very young, and it is estimated that he has just turned 1 year old. But if he waited for him to grow up a bit and then abducted him, it would be too late. Therefore, Victor decided to take Sabo back first. The king of the Goa Kingdom, as well as the royal family, nobles, and officials of the kingdom, all went to the pier to welcome the visit of celestial dragons. Among them, of course, is Sabo's father, Ortelik. The celestial dragons, as haughty as ever, rode slaves to the palace. Victor, Angelina and others followed closely to protect their safety. There are too many people now. Victor can only wait for the opportunity, and then take Sabo away. The city center of the Kingdom of Goa is bustling and bustling, but inside the isolated Windmill Village, it is peaceful. Garp attaches great importance to Ace. As long as he can ask for leave, he will never stay at naval headquarters. Coupled with the rapid growth of young people in Marine, they are relatively sufficient in terms of combat power. Of course, the main reason is that Marine began to shrink its sphere of influence. Exit New World and let the pirates of New World do their melee. Marine is sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight. In this way, there is no need for Garp to do things. However, in the evening, Victor came to the Windmill Village. Victor fell from the sky, and he was still holding special products from all over East Blue in his hand. It looked like he really came to visit. Victor has been the star general of Marine these years, so he was recognized by the villagers of Windmill Village as soon as he showed up. After a brief exchange, Victor came to Garp's house under the guidance of the villagers. At this time, Garp happened to be at home. Garp is either at home or going to Dada's house to see Ace in the near future. In the early years, Daden was a bandit who was offered a reward, but Garp did not arrest him, but took his identity as a bounty criminal as a handle in his hands. Dayton was afraid of being caught by Garp, so he followed his subordinates and lived in a dwelling in Mount Gorpo. Let go of the bandits, and raise the children of the pirate king Roger. Therefore, Garp is not very worthy of justice. This time, I'm traveling to escort celestial dragons. I passed by the Goa kingdom and came to visit you. After seeing Garp, Victor walked in and put down the special products. Upon hearing this, Garp hummed and invited Victor to sit at home. Garp's home is very ordinary, no different from ordinary residents. Moreover, Garp was the only one in the family. Drago is engaged in revolution outside. As for Luffy's mother, she should not be with Drago yet. Garp uncle, I've brought pickles. At this time, a girl walked into Garp's house. The girl looked 11 or 12 years old, with a headscarf wrapped around her head, big eyes, fair skin, and a ponytail. She was dressed like a very simple country girl. When the girl saw Victor, she was a little surprised and said in surprise, "You are Victor, Admiral." Victor also recognized the girl. Garp said with a smile, "Makino, help me prepare some appetizers." Okay. Makino often helps the Garp family with chores. Her cooking skills are very good. Soon, Makino was in the kitchen, preparing a few side dishes and boiling a pot of rice wine. Victor and Garp sit down, eat and talk. "Come here together, didn't you do anything outrageous?" Garp asked. He was referring to the celestial dragons. That depends on the definition of extraordinary in their eyes. These are everyday pleasures. Victor said calmly. Yeah. Garp nodded. He didn't ask much, nor was he very angry, he just muttered a few words. For example, "Those bastards don't have a good time at Marie Joy's. I hope they don't stay in Goa Kingdom for too long." In Garp's eyes, the celestial dragons are like plague gods. At this time, Victor said to Makino, "Your cooking skills are really good. Would you like to come with me to naval headquarters and be the chef of our headquarters?" Garp frowned on the spot. "You're over the top, how can I be the chef of Marine?" Makino covered his mouth and chuckled. Very natural and very approachable. Victor has a crush on Makino, is a good woman. Is this guy trying to do something to Makino? Garp became wary. Goa Kingdom, Gaojun. As night fell, the nobles in Gao town also fell asleep. During the few days of Celestial Dragon's visit, the nobles were tormented enough. Especially one Celestial Dragon's likes wives very much, making Goa Kingdom fly like a dog, and everyone with a wife is in danger. As a result, many people in the Kingdom of Goa were cuckolded. Fortunately, the Celestial Dragons have left, so they can finally breathe a sigh of relief. At this time, Ortelik E and his wife were already in a deep sleep. In the past few days, he was also on tenterhooks, almost suffering from a nervous breakdown. Although the aristocratic circle is very chaotic and it is not uncommon for the aristocrats to cheat, but he doesn't want his hair to be green. However, wait until after dawn. Outrok E has bad news. His son, Outrok Sabo, is missing. The son, who was only a few months old, disappeared at home. See Circle Calendar 1501. Victor returned to naval headquarters from his round-the-world tour. On a trip around the world, nothing happened. After all, with a Marine Admiral and 10,000 elite Marine escorts, no one really dares to seek death. After saying hello to Kuang, Victor went back to Sabodi Archipelago's villa to rest. In the courtyard of the villa, Robin is practicing gymnastics. During the year Victor left, Robin never stopped learning. While Robin is gifted at studying history, her talent for combat is mediocre. In addition to gymnastics classes, Victor also arranged many classes for Robin, such as etiquette lessons for nobles. When Robin heard that Victor was back, he wiped off his sweat and followed Stella out of the yard. Master Victor has worked hard. Stella and Robin stood at the door of the villa to welcome Victor. Yeah. Victor patted Stella's head lightly. During my absence, the family has worked hard for you. Afterwards, Victor looked at Robin again. I heard that you performed very well, and all courses have been highly appreciated. Robin replied, I won't let you down. Yeah. At this moment, Robin let Wright bring the two children. A man and a woman. One is Sabo and the other is Kuina. Sabo is over 1 year old and Kuina is over 2 years old. It was easier to take away Sabo, but there was a little trouble when taking away Kuina. The samurai in Shimotsuki village are still very strong. Especially Shimotsuki Kozaburo and Shimotsuki Koshiro. Thanks to Victor being strong enough, otherwise it would be really hard to steal the child. As for whether Zoro will use the three-sword style after losing Kuina, how much impact will it have on the future? Victor doesn't care about that. All he cares about is Kuina's talent with the sword. As long as Kuina is brought up, it will be a reliable combat power. Next, Victor needs a lot of time for Kuina and Sabo to develop feelings for him. Let them treat him like a father. They are. Stella looked at the two children suspiciously. Could it be that these two children are Lord Victor's illegitimate children outside? Or, during this voyage, Mr. Victor got married by the way? Stella's mind began to frantically brainstorm. Leave it to you first, and take good care of them. Victor said to Stella. Yes. Stella nodded, and he absolutely obeyed Victor's orders. See Circle Calendar 1503. Sabodi Archipelago, inside Victor's villa. Kuina and Sabo are in the yard. They are 1 year older. Kuina is 4 years old and has already started physical training. Although Sabo is only 3 years old, he is also watching from the side. Victor also often finds time to come back to spend time with the two little guys. He is now playing the role of a father who works outside. No matter how busy he is at work, he will go home to watch his children. This is a new personality, and he wants to keep it. At this time, Stella came over with a plate. The meat of deep-sea fish lay on the plate. Deep-sea fish is rich in nutrients and is more easily absorbed by the body. This is not the nutrition that ordinary children can eat. Therefore, Stella always thought that Victor was very good to the children. Come over and eat, Stella said to Kuina and Sabo. Kuina and Sabo quickly ran over. Now the two children are arranged to eat 5 meals a day, and there will be extra meals if they are hungry. The two children are very energetic every day. Because of the large amount of exercise, they are hungry very quickly. Blue blue. Blue blue. Just as the two children were busy eating food, the phone rang beside them. Stella picked up the phone. I'll be back this afternoon. The phone bug mimicked Victor's voice. Kuina and Sabo, who were eating, were very happy when they heard that Victor would be back. In their eyes, Victor is just like his father. He is very good to them. Victor puts down the microphone. Just when he was about to leave the headquarters and go back to look after his children. Senior. Connor hurried in. Did something happen to Tezzolo again? Victor asked casually. Ever since Tezzolo started killing people, he's been getting crazier. Constantly wage wars, seize territory, and expand his power. Especially last year, Tezzolo not only owned casinos and nightclubs, but also started smuggling arms. That's not true. Connor came to Victor and said, there are 3 people you want in the human trafficking market. The underground world of the current Sabodi archipelago has been decided by Victor. Any force that wants to survive in the Sabodi archipelago must look at Victor's face. Including human trafficking. Victor called Hancock by name. Stop Hancock early before he gets picked off by the celestial dragons. As for Hancock's iconic devil fruit, that's not too hard to get your hands on. Victor can find a solution to Angela Dessen. The population auction is also very interesting. After learning the names of the 3 Hancock sisters, I contacted Victor immediately. Send them all to the villa, Victor said to Connor. Yes. Connor nodded. After Victor explained, he just walked out of the office. At this moment, Victor saw Aokiji, who had just come up the stairs and was going to Sengoku's office. Victor sees Aokiji, and Aokiji sees Victor. However, Aokiji didn't say hello to Victor, he just walked past Victor. It's as if Victor is an unrelated stranger. Over the past few years, Victor has been placing his henchmen in the headquarters. People from the Blue Ocean Society and the Akainu faction were reused by Victor. For this reason, the conflict between Victor and Sengoku was also put on the table. Of course, Aokiji doesn't want to get involved in the martial battle between Victor and Sengoku. However, even if Aokiji doesn't fight, Sengoku wants to use Aokiji. Aokiji is Zephyr's most trusted disciple. Now the young generals of naval headquarters are almost all disciples of Zephyr. Win over Aokiji, you can also get Zephyr's favor. It is also easier for Sengoku to fight for the position of marshal. Naturally, Sengoku also allowed Aokiji to accumulate a lot of credit in the process of using Aokiji. Victor needn't guess, Sengoku wants to make Aokiji Admiral now. If you don't want to be a Marine, then leave the Marine, no one is forcing you. Victor stopped and said with his back to Aokiji. Aokiji didn't stop and kept walking. If you want to continue to be a Marine, then work hard. In addition, if you want to make a change, you need to pay a price. After Victor finished speaking, he walked towards the elevator. Aokiji stopped when the elevator opened. Aokiji is not stupid, he understands Victor's hints. It's easy to say. The already decayed Marine, how can it be changed? Aokiji smiled self-deprecatingly and entered Sengoku's office. His current work for Marine is just work, not passion, just completing tasks. When Victor returned to the villa, as soon as he reached the gate, Kuina and Sabo ran up. Victor crouched down and held the two children in his arms. He is a loving father. What did you learn today? Victor asked Kuina. Kuina replied. I can do 100 push-ups at once today. Not bad. Victor smiled with satisfaction, then looked at Sabo. Sabo rushed to answer. I can also make 70. It's all great. Victor smiled and carried the two children into the villa. Stella followed behind. Wright also followed closely. He also watched Kuina and Sabo grow up. He was also very happy to see that the two children were so sensible and grew up so fast. Meanwhile, at the villa, Hancock looks at Victor. All three Hancock sisters wore slave collars around their necks. If they escaped, the slave collars around their necks would explode. They were sent to Victor as slaves. Even if the collar needs to be removed, Victor's consent is required. The three of Hancock dared not run because they had seen runaway slaves whose necks had been blown off by collars. You don't have to be afraid, Master Victor will not hurt you. At this moment, Robin spoke. Robin saw the uneasiness of the three of Hancock. In fact, the Hancock trio were taken to the Sabodi archipelago after being captured by human traffickers. They were imprisoned for a period of time, and their names were asked at the population auction until they needed to be sold. It happened that the three of them were the ones Victor wanted, otherwise, they would have been put on the shelves for sale by now. It's just that during the time of captivity, the three of Hancock were terrified. Hancock looked at Robin, who was wary of him. Ever since she encountered human traffickers at sea, it was hard for her to trust others. While Robin comforted the three of Hancock, Connor came to Victor and reported the situation to Victor. Victor smiled slightly, and said disapprovingly, it's okay, it's just some small problems. Taming Hancock was easy for Victor. What's more, if a man wants to get a woman, he only needs time and skill. After all, time makes love. Isn't Robin's attitude towards Victor already full of trust?